wanted to make a video about the LJ World article that was published yesterday on the candidate questionnaire responses, and how they took it upon themselves to make it into a story instead of just printing our answers verbatim, letting the readers decide, for themselves what they think of the responses. And I've been thinking a lot about how I want this video to look and how I wanted to put it together and what I wanted it to consist of. And I thought I could go over what they wrote there, and I could air my grievances, and I could just sit here and complain about it. Well, the reality of it is the article has been published and it's out there, so nothing's going to change that. So I figure what the best way to proceed from here is I just want to read you guys my responses, and hopefully you guys listen to them and just see what you guys think. Just give you a little bit of context on these candidate questionnaire. So obviously all three of those candidates were asked the same questions, but I was asked 4 additional questions. And in the initial email that I received from Lawrence Journal World said that the editor wanted to ask me 4 questions that he thought that the readers would want to know. And so I'm going to read those questions in my responses. And so the first question here it says, "What's your current employment situation?" And I said, quote, "I'm retired. When I'm elected, my one and only full-time job will be county commissioner, which will allow me to focus all my time, energy, and effort on improving the county. Since you are asking about my employment, I assume you will also be asking current Commissioner Democrat Patrick Kelly about his job as USD 497's Chief Academic Officer, where he developed and implemented the inappropriate gender identity and human sexuality curriculum for all K-12 students in the district, meaning adults talk with kids about sex beginning at age 5. This is grooming, and I want to know why he feels it necessary to discuss sexual issues with children and why that thought would ever even cross his mind," end quote. And so as I go through these answers here, do me a favor, go read the LJ World article and see how they painted my responses in the article compared to how I actually wrote them up here and how I'm reading them to you here. And you'll see that they didn't cover a lot of what I said there. And that's upsetting, because as a candidate running for office, I specifically wrote my responses, every word that I wrote, and in the manner that I wrote it, and in the style that I wrote it, and with the attitude that I wrote it, because I'm trying to reach people in a certain way to vote for me, to influence them to vote for me. And so LJ World took it upon themselves to basically be my campaign manager for me. These are guys, Austin Hornbostel, who is the author of the article, and then the editor, Chad Lawhorn. These are 2 guys that they don't like me. So why in the world would I entrust them with my responses? This is why it should have just been printed in there verbatim, so that way the readers can read it and decide and be like, oh yeah, I like that response, or I don't like that response, I'm not voting for that, or I am voting for this. But instead, those 2 took it upon themselves to manipulate their readers, not only with our words, but manipulating our words, but by manipulating the minds of their readers on what gets to go inside their mind in terms of deciding which candidate they want to vote for. And that shit just ain't right, man. All right, so then the second question they asked me was, quote, the question was, "How did your employment at Washburn end?" And I said, quote, "I stood up in opposition to critical race theory propaganda circulating among faculty in my department. In my opinion, I was then wrongfully offered a terminal contract. Check out this article from the Kansas Constitutional newsletter titled Justin Spiess, Right-Wing Extremist or Phantom of the Left-Wing Mafia by Ian Brannon, where I discuss this issue. The article can be found online at," and then I give the link, and so end quote. And so yeah, go check out that article. Do me a favor. It is called the Kansas Constitutional. It can be found on the Kansas Constitutional Substack is what it's called. And so the author is Ian Brannon. He's the founder and editor, or founder and author of that. The only author there at the Kansas Constitutional right now, and it's a newsletter right now, but he wants to grow it into his newspaper. So go check him out online, and if you can, pay for a subscription, man. He puts out some really good work, and he's really trying to grow his stuff, and he's a fair and balanced journalist. He doesn't put a slant to it either way. He just reports things the way that they are. And so back in like April or May, he stopped by when I was standing on the corner campaigning with my campaign sign, and he did an article on me, just about me and my candidacy. And like I said, it's called Justin Spiess, Right-Wing Extremist or Phantom of the Left-Wing Mafia. And I talk about what happened with me at Washburn and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff in there about me. It's the most fair and balanced article that's been written about me, and that's why I referenced in my answers, because I wanted the readers to go and read more about me instead of getting it all through these left-wing biased newspapers here in town that have never painted me in an accurate light. And this candidate questionnaire article is proof of that. All right, so then the third question they asked is, are you party to any ongoing criminal or civil cases that the LJ World hasn't reported on? My response was, quote, I'm in consultation with my legal counsel about a potential lawsuit against Washburn University based on actions by the university that led to the end of my employment as a professor there, end quote. And then the last question they asked me was, with the understanding that you're currently on probation, what would you say to voters with uncertainties about whether you're in a stable enough place to serve in office effectively? I mean, just talk about a hit piece question right there. Asking, just the assumption is out there that I'm not stable because of that is just ridiculous. Anyways, so my response is, quote, I'd say check out my YouTube channel titled Dr. Justin Spiess and then I leave the link to learn more about me, from me directly, and decide for yourself. Now, in the article, LJ World says that I didn't answer the question directly, and that's simply not true. As you saw there, I answered it, and my answer was, the people need to come to me to decide who I am, to learn more about me and decide who I am, instead of getting it filtered through the left-wing newspapers, LJ World and Lawrence Times, that are here, that have done nothing but run hit pieces on me and try to smear my name as much as possible. So the reason why I answered that question the way that I did is because I wanted to bring the viewers, the readers, to me through my YouTube channel so they can get a better idea of who I am, instead of getting it from Chad Lawhorn and Austin Hornbossel. I mean, the two guys that don't like me anyways, you might as well come get it, straight from the horse's mouth. All right, so the next questions here, there was 5 questions. There were issues questions that they asked each one of the candidates. And so the first question that they asked was, with the Panasonic battery plant coming to Douglas County, do you see the commission needing to strike a balance between impending population growth in areas like Eudora and the desire to protect agricultural land? Well, so the thing about that is that Panasonic battery plant isn't coming to Douglas County. It's going to Johnson County. It's going to be in DeSoto, which is in Johnson County. So right off the bat, that question is wrong. And in my answer, I call out LJ World for not knowing the facts about this, but still asking us this question. Of course, in the article they wrote, they don't of course, say that they were wrong on even the wording of the question, or the wrong on the basic facts of the question. But anyways, my response was this, quote, that plant is coming to DeSoto, which is not in Douglas County. Therefore, this question is just another example of inaccurate garbage put out by LJ World, but I wouldn't expect anything less from Chad Lawhorn and his newspaper. That said, I think Democrat Patrick Kelly has done such a poor job of managing Douglas County these past 4 years that most, if not all, of those future employees resulting from the 8,000 jobs created by the battery plant won't end up living here in our county, sadly. What a shame. Talk about a missed opportunity. Good job, Patrick Kelly. By the way, Patrick Kelly oversaw the loss of 300 jobs in Douglas County in just the past year alone. Also, I've been challenging Patrick Kelly to a debate for months now, but he declined every time because he knows his positions on the issues are extremely bad and that I would expose him on the debate stage. I've also challenged LJ World and Lawrence Times to host debates with all 3 of the county commissioner candidates, but they have been silent on that as well. My offer to Patrick Kelly, LJ World, and Lawrence Times still stands. So they didn't publish that response, obviously. And also, just a note here that there was a word limit for each one of the responses, and all my responses met that word limit. I was within that word limit, so there was no issue with how many words that I had put in each one of my responses. The next question they asked each of the candidates was, at least one major developer, NextEra, has been exploring not just a solar project but also a wind farm in southern Douglas County. In terms of larger scale renewable energy development, are you open to it? If so, what do you need to see in a proposal to be more comfortable it'll fit with what neighbors in the area want? My response is, quote, the Democrats' push for green energy is just another way for Democrat politicians to virtue signal while also stoking fear in the community in order to take more tax money. For example, at the September 20th City Commission meeting, Democrat Mayor Courtney Shipley approved a proclamation calling for October 2nd to be Lawrence Drive Electric Day. The proclamation reads, quote, Petroleum-fueled vehicles are responsible for over 50% of our local greenhouse gas emissions and are a contributing factor to air pollution and climate disruption, threatening the health of our citizens and the sustainability of our planet." End quote. That evening, Mayor Shipley drove off in her humongous, unnecessarily oversized, gas-guzzling, 16 miles per gallon, suburban-sized four-door GMC Yukon SUV. Clearly, she doesn't believe any of this green energy stuff herself, but we're all expected to pay more in taxes to support something Democrats don't even take seriously themselves? No way. All the local politicians on our city and county commissions and the USD 497 school board are Democrats, with one rhino, and are all exactly the same as her. As a community, I say let's spend our time focusing on more important things that actually impact taxpayers' lives and that we all recognize are serious issues. End quote. And so again, my response is a reflection of what I represent as a candidate, and that I'm fighting not just what's going on in the county with the county commissioners, but with the city commissioners, with the USD 497 school board. They're all the same. I'm fighting all of that, and I want the voters out there to know that I'm there fighting the whole entire system. That's why I wrote the answers that I did. And then again, LJ World just takes the liberty to just completely omit that part of it, and so the readers don't get that part of me as a candidate. That was a very important part of my response, and is another issue I take with them not printing these verbatim. Next question was, in the wake of the 2023 budget being passed, there's been a lot of conversation about whether there could have been any further tax relief for folks in Douglas County, especially given the county's fund balance savings, which weren't used to lower the mill levy this time around. With that in mind, how do you approach the budget process next year if property values spike again? And I said, quote, I want to cut into both the $42 million county savings fund and the $12.6 million that has accumulated from the county's 1 cent sales tax revenue. That's $55 million Patrick Kelly could have used to reduce your property taxes, but didn't. He has contributed to the 70% increase in Douglas County's property taxes over the past 20 years, while the Kansas average is 8%. Additionally, I will propose a modified Tabor policy that 1, caps how much money the county can, 2, refunds taxpayers with any surplus tax revenue, 3, caps how much the county can spend, and 4, puts any tax increase requests on the ballot for the community to vote on. Furthermore, I will propose putting both the 1994 1 cent jail expansion sales tax and the quarter-cent mental health sales tax back on the ballot, so that the community can vote and decide if they would like to do the following with one or both of these taxes. 1, eliminate them. 2, suspend them for a period of time. 3, reduce them by a certain percentage. Or 4, cap how much money can be collected with any surplus money refunded back to the taxpayer. Now, keep in mind in that question here, it says that especially given the county's fund balance savings, which weren't used to lower the mill levy this time around. Well, in their article, they say, Patrick Kelly noted the county's budget for 2023 actually includes a mill levy decrease of a little more than 1 mil, the equivalent of about $1,783,000 in tax dollars. But their question said they didn't lower the mill levy, but yet they're saying that it did decrease the mill levy by 1. I mean, that's what I've been saying all along. It didn't decrease it. They proposed an increase of 4 mills, and then they only approved an increase of 3. So they decreased their proposal by 1 mil. It didn't decrease how much actual taxes went down. Your taxes went up. So if there was a decrease in the mill, your taxes went up. There was a decrease in the mill, but your taxes went up. That doesn't make any sense. It's clearly a lie. All right, so the fourth question they asked is, do you support an expanded 5-member commission? Do you think it'll be an effective way to create more representation for people outside Lawrence? Or does it just give more opportunity to end up with an all-Lawrence commission? My answer was, quote, government expansion costs the taxpayers more money, and therefore I'm against it. If the commission is expanded, the commissioners would then say they have to increase your taxes in order to pay for 2 new commissioner salaries at a minimum. Then, because the commission grew in size, the commissioners would say that staff would also have to grow in size in order to accommodate the larger commission. Did you know the county administrator makes $227,122 a year? The assistant county administrator makes $101,365 a year. Imagine now paying for another administrator or another assistant administrator and then an assistant to the assistant administrator. It would be endless. Additionally, I oppose expansion because increasing to 5 commissioners is just another way the political elite try to change the rules mid-game in order to stay one step ahead of the citizens. In doing so, the political elite are ensuring they stay in power indefinitely. The system, therefore, is designed to keep the elite in power. Let's not feed into that system any longer, Douglas County. All right, and then the fifth thing they asked is, the commission has been pretty plain in recent months in its prioritization of boosting the county's capacity for affordable housing units, illustrated through the ARPA allocation process. Nearly $10 million went to agencies dedicated to affordable housing or other housing issues. What other work would you like to see the commission do to move the needle further on that front? And I said, quote, who pays for affordable housing? The taxpayer. Therefore, I won't support anything that puts more unnecessary financial burden and strain on taxpayers, especially right now during a recession, 40-year record high inflation, and increasingly high gas prices. That said, I do recognize and understand that many people are struggling financially right now due to national and local Democrat policies and may need some assistance. What I'm offering for assistance is to put money in Douglas County citizens' pockets by way of tax relief, as I outlined above, with 1. Tax refunds from the county's $42 million savings account and $12.6 million in untouched sales tax revenue. 2. Eliminating, reducing, suspending, or capping the 1 cent and quarter-cent sales tax. And 3. My modified Tabor policy. This way, citizens won't need to rely on the government for affordable housing because they'll just have more money to live on. Not rocket science. The fact that Democrat Patrick Kelly does not understand this and once again raised your property taxes should be reason enough for the community to vote him out on November 8th. If you don't vote him out, then all I can say is enjoy your tax increases the next 4 years. And so those are all the questions and all my responses. One other thing that I want to add that they included in their write-up that had nothing to do with any of the questions or anything is they included again me being removed from the city commissioners meeting this past Tuesday, but they weren't accurate on why I was removed. It says here that as recently as Tuesday, Speece was asked by Lawrence's mayor to leave the Lawrence City Commission meeting after he called the mayor, who is Hispanic, a Nazi and said she was being racist against him because he is white. Speece was asked to leave under a new city commission policy requiring commenters to focus on topics germane to the commission. Now, I didn't call Mayor Shipley a Nazi in that meeting. I called her a Nazi in the meeting prior to that. So the week before that, I called her a Nazi, and I didn't get kicked out of that meeting for that. So what they reported here, LJ World reported here, just isn't right, man. I didn't get kicked out of last week's meeting because I called her a Nazi. I got kicked out of there because when I went up to speak, she interrupted me and wouldn't let me speak, saying that what I was talking about wasn't germane to the business of the city. And then her and I started arguing, going back and forth. And at that point, I got kicked out. So just another inaccuracy about me, and also that had nothing to do with any of the questions that they asked any of the candidates either. They just kind of threw that in, to make me look, like this crazy, unhinged madman or whatever. And, and they can report on that. They just need to report it as factual. Yeah, I called her a Nazi. I don't care about that. I said what I said. And then the other thing that they threw in there is this: they did an editor's note talking again, the same editor's note that they wrote last week in the article about me getting kicked out of that last city commissioners meeting. The editor's note is about the incident that happened at LJ World, where me and my friends one of my friends got assaulted by one of their employees, and then we got permanently banned from there as well. And just so you're aware, in Kansas, assault isn't like like you think of assault like you get punched or you hit somebody. Assault is a threat. Battery is when you make contact with someone. So like you punch someone, that's battery. If you assault someone, you're threatening them. So their employee made a threatening gesture to my friend who's a 5'1" female, made a threatening gesture to her, and so we wanted that reported. And anyway, so the editor, Chad Lawhorn, again, he had to throw that editor's note at the end of the article here on the candidates' responses to their questions. But those are all my answers. Do me a favor, go read the LJ World article, and you can compare how they what they wrote compared to what my actual responses were, and see how they're manipulating their viewers' minds. And I think it's insulting if I Lawrence, if I were you, Lawrence, and if I was an LJ World reader, I'd be insulted that Chad Lawhorn thinks that lowly of you, that you know, they can't put in the candidate response questions verbatim in there for you to read and make up your own mind. Instead, he's got to filter it for you and basically just spoon feed it to you and be like, here's what you need to think based on what me and Chad Lawhorn and Austin Hornbustle are feeding you. They leave out a lot of context. They leave out a lot of words. They leave out a lot of the attitude and the feel of my responses. And I just think that's insulting to the readers. They know that their readers, or they believe that their readers aren't critical thinkers and aren't critical readers, and so they play on that, and they're able to put out garbage like this because they think the readers will just read it and then hook, line, and sinker believe everything about it. Well, I want to challenge all you readers out there. Read it, but ask questions like, hey, what really were their answers, and then and listen to what I said here. With my responses that I just read here of what my actual answers are. And you can come to your own conclusions about it. But I appreciate you checking out my video. I'll talk to you guys later.